Orléans is a 2 to 4 player game in partnership by Tasty Minstrel Games and DLP Games. In Orléans, players are attempting to get the most points, which is done in various means of point acquisition. The game begins with the board being set up with various produce tiles laid across between the various cities in France, and then all of the player market set up on the left side of the board. Each player is then given 5 coins and 4 starting workers of preset worker types. Once everything has been set, play begins. Each turn begins with the hourglass being revealed. There are 18 hourglasses. Once the final hourglass has been revealed, the final turn has begun. Each hourglass reveals an event that will take place later in the game. Players have some slight notice so they can prepare for the event when it occurs. Once the hourglass has been revealed, players will get money or lose money based on their position on the farming track. The player the furthest on the track will get 1 coin from the bank. The player furthest behind on the track will give a coin to the bank. If a player ever has to give a coin and they cannot, they must take a torture action. Once players have completed gaining and losing coins, they will then draw from their bag. Each player has a bag of player color which they fill with their workers. Over the course of the game, players will receive more workers. They draw workers equal to their placement on the night track, starting with 4 and potentially earning up to 8 workers. Players will place their workers in their worker market, which they can then allocate during the assigning worker phase. Each worker has a type, being boatsmen, traders, craftsmen, farmers, eventually scholars, monks, and knights. As they are assigned, players can do this simultaneously, or they can go in player order. Players do not have to assign a worker and can choose to leave the worker in the market to be assigned at a later turn. Once all players have assigned their workers, they will go in turn order, activating the said action. In this case, a player has filled the worker track. All places per each location must be filled. Were a player to put a trader on the castle, he could not activate it unless he also had a boatsman and a farmer. When activating a location, they take all the workers, replacing them in their bag, and then take the action. In this case, they may take a boatsman, a craftsman, or a trader from the game board. As they take the appropriate action, say a trader, they will add that to their character bag. They will then move their character tracker 1 space up and take the appropriate action. As a trader, they will get to take a level 1 building from the building supply, which will be added as a potential future location. Some abilities are permanent and constantly in play. Future advancements, they are allowed to take level 1 or level 2 buildings. Additional locations are the craftsman. As you advance on the craftsman track, you get technology, which will fill locations, preventing you from having to place workers, making each action cheaper in future rounds. Your first technology must be placed on a farmer tile. Future technologies can be placed on any tile, so long as there is no current technology on the tile, and it has at least 2 workers that need to be placed there. The boatsman, as you move up, you'll get coins from the bank. The first player to reach the 6th location gets a civilian. Civilians are worth points at the end of the game. As you advance on the night track, you'll be drawing more cards, or more characters at the beginning of your turn. The first character to reach this location gets a citizen, and will continue to draw 7 at the start of their turn. As you advance the scholars, you advance your score on the track along the bottom of the board. As you advance on this track, you'll get citizens as well as money. At the end of the game, you multiply your number of guild halls by your number of citizens by this number to get additional points. Throughout the game, you can also get various produce, which are stored on the side. Once you run out of goods, you no longer receive them. You can additionally get monks, which are used as wilds, as well as send your workers through the town hall to do beneficial deeds. As you place workers on said deeds, you'll unlock their bonus, in this case, 1 coin. The player who places the last worker fulfilling all the requirements gets a citizen for point scoring at the end of the game.
Enjoyed that. Eric, what's your thoughts?
I liked the designated workers rather than just like one worker can go anywhere. You had specific places that specific workers had to go to. So yeah. I did like that variant.
Yeah. And that was one of the things I was really looking forward to when this game was being talked about quite a bit before it was out. Just that idea of you had workers that could only go on certain places. I was really looking forward to seeing how that worked. I thought it worked fabulously. Then you have buildings that aid things. So I could use my boatsmen as other basic workers. Eric could use his scholars as pretty much anything. I thought that was really cool how there's some variety in that. How about visually? What are your guys' thoughts on the graphics and the components?
I think it looked pretty good. I mean, it's chipboard, and you have these little figures. I know there was some discussion that it would be cool to have meeples instead. You know, more wood components. That probably would have made a better quality game.
But also a higher priced game.
Yes, that would be the issue. But overall, I'd say it was pretty good quality. I mean, it's €1.
Yeah.
Right? You're not going to have miniatures, so...
Although you could.
But of what they had, there's a lot...
want.
Yeah, of what they had, there's a lot of wooden bits in here. So I'd say the value's up there. Plus these have a really nice feel. It's like a velvety bag.
Do you have any thoughts? Graphics, components?
I can't really think of anything else other than I really did like the artwork on it. Kind of reminded me of more of kind of like going back to the medieval art style.
I was a little sad that they didn't do metal coins. I know that sometimes... No, seriously, TMG will do metal coins on a lot of their games.
I'm just thinking we're adding so much cost to the production of this
Oh,
game
yeah,
with
but
our ideas.
TMG is known for that. That's what they do.
Yeah.
And so I was a little sad when I saw that it was, punch board, but understood.
There is Orleans Deluxe.
Oh, there is.
Which I am not sure what the Deluxe adds to the game. I just know that I am a poor guy who can only afford normal games.
Fair enough.
One of my thoughts, though, graphically, I really liked the quality of the components and everything. There was one thing that drove me crazy, and they did it intentionally. And on the game board, it's tilted slightly to look like a map lying on a table or something.
Oh.
And I don't like it. I would rather it just be a straight in the frame. That was my one main complaint with the game, and now that's all you'll think of when you see it.
Yeah. Now that I see that, that's interesting.
Yeah. But other than that, I really liked the graphics. I like what Eric mentioned, the idea of kind of that older style artwork and whatnot. But then there's a lot of iconography, which I thought was quite easy to understand as well, especially once you do a few playthroughs. What about the theme? What do you guys thought? Did you feel like you were exploring and developing France or something of the like?
I really didn't.
No.
That was lost on me.
It's a Euro.
Yeah, it felt like I was managing sliding scales of different resources to acquire ambiguous points.
And then, I mean, even within the European setting, there was just like, all right, I'm going to move on the map up or down, right or left, you know, and it was like, I don't know what the names of the towns are. I'm just going that way, so...
Yeah, because my thought as we were playing this game was the theme worked. It didn't hurt the game by any means, but it didn't necessarily help it. But I'm like, this game could easily be rethemed and rebranded. So you could be space people in a spaceship moving around. You could have your security, your command officers, your science officers, and everything. I had yet to figure out what your resources would become. Something on a spaceship.
Spices, fuel.
Yeah, spices, fuel, stuff like that. So I'm like, this could be rethemed quite well. Which kind of started to excite me, because I'm like, I would love this as a space game. You could also do it similarly with like fantasy and different stuff like that. So I started to enjoy like the possibilities that this game had in that regards. But what about pacing? I know that's something we talked about while we were playing the game. What are your guys' thoughts on how the game paced?
I kind of struggled with a lot of AP. I think it was also learning the game. I mean, we played it. It was the first time for me playing. I don't know about you guys. I think Sean, it was your first time as well. But I was like, as we were asking a lot of questions, as well as I was really trying to figure out, okay, what is the strategy that I need to stick to, and then it was something that, you know, they weren't necessarily doing at the time. So it definitely had a lot of moments of AP, which kind of killed, I think, some of the pacing. So
yeah, there was a breaking point for me about the second round. I was like, okay, I need to just play it fast and loose. Otherwise, if I'm analyzing every single option, I'm going to be here all day.
Mm-hmm.
So I just need to pick a vague notion of what I was going to try and do and go for that every time. And I adapted about three-quarters of the way through the deck. I think you guys started going after the land masses, and I was like, okay, going for another vague notion of this track, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Again, I didn't feel like I was part of a medieval town, but...
Yeah. And that's where I feel like I traditionally am a faster player, and so as I was going, there's a lot of downtime, or I'm just waiting. And then there was one time where they finished placing before me, and it was really stressful, and I hate that feeling. That's part of the reason I'm not an AP player, is if they're waiting on me, I can't do anything. I just stress out and feel terrible.
Well,
Which is why I like my trash games. They're funner. And now I'll have so many nasty comments. But that's where I felt that was the hardest part for me with the game, was the occasional pacing problems. There are certain people in some of my play groups I would never invite to play this game. I mean, admittedly, once you learn it, the last rounds it started to speed up because you settle into a strategy. So like Eric's like, all right, I'm going to move around and build stuff. And you're like, I'm going to get development points. And I'm like, I'm going to get resources.
yeah.
So once you settle into a strategy, it did pick up pace.
Yeah.
But the first few rounds take a while.
And along that same analysis paralysis line, this was only with 3 players. Imagine a 4th player who was AP prone.
Yeah.
I almost think the ideal number of players is 3 here.
Yeah.
4 would just weight it down.
And you can play it with 2
would-
players, and there are alterations.
I hate it when they do that, though.
Yeah. And with this one, like, you have different places and you have a different amount of resources out based on the player count. And then you have a different amount of spare resources. That's the main variance.
Right.
So, but any final thoughts?
I really liked it. I would highly recommend it. Just choose your players wisely.
Yeah, I was gonna say I really enjoyed it, and like I said, there are definitely people that I would not play this with, but this is definitely one that I would play again. So.
It's actually interesting. I know we're about out of time, but this was up for the Kenner Spiel. I think it was last year, and by last year I mean 2015 Kenner Spiel. 2016 Kenner Spiel was Time Stories, Pandemic Legacy, which in my mind are like half the complicatedness of this.
Yeah.
Like Pandemic Legacy is just Pandemic,
Yeah.
if you guys have played that. But I thought that was really interesting that this was such a heavy game, comparatively speaking.
Don't get me started about how those awards are handed out. That's a whole other topic, and I don't like how it's done. But yeah, I think this game, highly replayable with the right group. Just make sure you invite people who don't take forever over analyzing every detail. And
Yeah, Brian.
sorry, I did it once. And just understand that, playing the game is half the fun.
Yeah.
This is a game that I lost terribly, but I had so much fun losing. So, all right, well, this has been Orléans by Rainer Stockhausen with Tasty Minstrel Games and DLP Games. Join us next time when we play something else. I don't know what it'll be.
Splash the pot. The timer will be hidden.
Are we ready?
You shall not pass gas.
The box facing the right way.
Yes.
Are we ready?
Yes.
All right, since I have the timer here, I don't have to add 30 seconds.
Zang.
And go.